Vega Nine was a quiet world with red soil and twin suns, a place where families came to escape the noise of Earth and raise their children in peace. The colony sat at the edge of human expansion, small enough to be forgotten, large enough to feel safe. No wars, no crime, just crops, wind, and laughter in the fields, the kind of place where children played until dusk and parents watched the sky with tired smiles, until one morning the laughter stopped and the wind carried only silence. It started in the village of Merrowfield, where 3 children vanished in a single night. The doors to their homes still sealed, their beds still warm. One mother swore she heard a sound like a song from the trees. Another spoke of a blue shimmer behind the glass, but the security cams showed nothing, just static for 11 seconds. And then the empty rooms, the toys untouched, the blankets folded, as if the children had simply decided not to exist anymore. By the end of the week, 10 more were gone. People began to panic. They checked every drone feed, every station log, every atmospheric scanner, but found no trace, no movement, no anomaly. The colony governor ordered a lockdown. The streets emptied, the fields wilted under neglect, and parents slept beside cribs with weapons in their hands. Then came the burn marks. Perfect circles etched into the ground behind homes, behind schools, behind the communal play gardens. Always the same size, always seared an inch deep into the soil. No radiation, no heat, just a faint hum that made people sick when they stood too close. The scientists said they had never seen anything like it. The military said they would send help. Help never came. A week passed, and 24 children were missing. No bodies, no signs of struggle, just whispers and static, and that low sound humming under everything, like it was part of the world now. Then one night, a local mechanic named Rios saw it, a shimmer in the sky. Not a ship, not a drone, just a pulse like a ripple across the stars, moving slow and steady over the valley. He tried to capture it on his lens, but the footage came back blank. Only the sound remained, a soft, melodic vibration, like a lullaby played through broken wires. He uploaded it to the colony net, and within minutes it was gone, deleted, erased from every backup, every drive. Even his personal feed was wiped clean. And then the governor's signal went dark, and no one saw her again. People started to whisper that this was not a kidnapping, not an accident. They said the children were being taken for a reason, that something out there had found them and decided to collect. The elders spoke of old warning stories buried in deep archive files about ships that came in the night and left nothing behind, and always they took the young, always the ones who still dreamed without fear. And on the edge of Vega Nine, where the wind howled through the empty woods, the last crib lay still and untouched, rocking slowly back and forth under a red sky that no longer felt like home. The signal came from deep space, a faint ping picked up by an old defense array buried in the ice of Neptune's third moon, a forgotten installation still half-active thanks to a stubborn AI that refused to shut down. The ping was rhythmic, pulsing, slow like a heartbeat, unnatural, but familiar, a pattern matched only once before, over 70 years ago, during the silent sweep when 3 colonies vanished without a trace. Earth Command dispatched a listening drone, fast and quiet, outfitted with stealth plating and dark sensors. It slipped past outer traffic lanes and followed the pulse through unmarked sectors until it found the source, a vessel drifting between systems just outside the Orion Veil, too large for trade, too small for war. Its surface shimmered with refractive shielding, and its design matched nothing in the human registry. The drone approached slowly, hidden behind a scattering field. It sent out a low-band scan, and then froze. Onboard algorithms triggered emergency protocol 77. When the scan returned unexpected results, there were life signs aboard, several small and human, and sleeping. Earth High Command authorized a breach. A ghost ship was dispatched from Luna Base 6, a ship built for black ops and deep recovery missions, piloted by AI and crewed by silence. It reached the alien vessel in 20 hours and locked on with a magnetic tether. It did not announce itself. It simply cut into the hull with precision lasers and drifted inside like a shadow. Inside were chambers filled with soft blue light and floating pods, and within those pods were children. Human children. Their eyes closed, their bodies unharmed, suspended in some kind of stasis fluid that shimmered with alien particles and chemical markers. No one could decipher the ship's interior was made of organic alloy that pulsed faintly under every footstep. Walls curved like bone and air, tasted like metal and sugar and sleep. 3 of the crew vanished in the first hour. Their comms went silent, their beacons dead. No bodies found. The remaining team retrieved what they could: hard drives, DNA samples, energy readings. One of them downloaded a data core from the ship's command node, and as soon as they did, the ship woke up. It screamed. Not with sound, but with force. Every wall vibrated with pressure, every console lit up with alien code, every surface cracked and reformed. And the ship tried to leave, tried to vanish the way it came, but the ghost crew was faster. They triggered the tether bomb and ripped a hole through the vessel's side, dragging out the stasis pods and the data core before the rest of the ship folded into a ripple of light and was gone. Gone like it had never been there. The children were brought to a secure orbital lab and monitored around the clock. None of them woke, none of them aged, and their minds showed no signs of activity, just low-level brain waves, like they were listening to something far away. And when Earth's top cryptographers unlocked the alien data core, it showed a single word written in 1,000 languages, not one of them human: archive. The message was clear. They were not lost. They were taken. And it had happened before. The message came without warning, hijacking every signal path from Earth to the furthest colony. It began as static, then turned into light, then formed an image so clear it felt impossible, too crisp, too real, like it was beamed directly into the brain itself. A chamber, dim and vast walls, pulsing with a strange organic glow, filled with rows of floating stasis pods, each holding a child, each one human. Then came the voice. Calm, clinical, ancient. You breed without purpose, you expand without balance, you create without restraint. You are a species of noise and motion and heat. We are the Kethari, and we bring order to the growing chaos. We take what is needed to preserve what must be preserved, and discard what hinders progress. Your young are adaptable, their minds pliable, their bodies unbound by your limitations. They are useful. You may grieve, but grief is the cry of the obsolete. The message ended with a final wide shot of the stasis pods, then cut to black across every screen, every channel, every bandwidth. Panic spread faster than the signal. Earth tried to respond, tried to reach the Kethari through every diplomatic relay, but received only silence, then static, then an echo of their own words played back, distorted and hollow like a ghost mocking its former life. Across the colonies, parents demanded action, politicians gave speeches full of rage and sorrow and empty promises, but Earth Command said nothing. They went quiet, eyes cold, lips sealed. They knew something no one else did. The Kethari were not unknown, not entirely. Buried in forgotten files was an old report from a lost exploration vessel that had encountered a structure in deep void space, something ancient and vast with walls that sang and machines that harvested light itself. The report mentioned beings who spoke through pressure and memory, and who kept trophies in glass. That report had been labeled unverifiable and sealed away until now. Now it was clear the Kethari were real, and they had been watching for a long time. Colonies began to fortify, trade routes were rerouted, science stations were evacuated, war fleets were placed on high alert across 17 sectors, yet Earth's own fleets remained still as if waiting for something unseen. And then, on the 3rd day after the broadcast, every orbital defense satellite on Earth shut down for 6 minutes, no warning, no error, just 6 minutes of silence, then came back online with no explanation and no trace of what had caused the blackout. 6 minutes was enough for 1,000 warships to pass through unnoticed. 6 minutes was long enough for a species like humanity to vanish. But nothing came. No attack, no invasion, just that unbearable silence. People began to wonder if Earth had been defeated without a shot, if the Kethari had already won. But inside the underground bunkers of Luna and Mars and Titan, the truth was growing loud and sharp and ready. Earth was not silent because it was afraid. Earth was silent because it was loading the gun. The silence stretched across the stars like a wire pulled tight, too quiet, too controlled. Every colony waited for the thunder that never came, and behind every nervous glance was the same question: why wasn't Earth moving? Why weren't the fleets launched? Where was the rage? Where was the fire that everyone knew humanity carried in its bones? On the surface, it looked like fear. No orders, no deployments, no retaliation, just empty speeches and blacked-out channels. Earth Command ignored every broadcast, every plea, even the cries from grieving parents across Vega 9 and Titan Reach and Delphi Core. But something had changed in the background. People started to disappear quietly, subtly, without alarm. Soldiers gone from their posts, pilots missing from flight decks, engineers and intelligence agents leaving mid-shift without explanation, without luggage, without farewell. Entire battalions dissolved into empty bunks and logged-out consoles, and when questioned, officers simply said reassigned and refused to explain further. Mars Defense Grid reported 100 ships lost from inventory, but no signs of theft, no break-ins, no damage, only silence. Luna's dry docks registered ghost loadouts, heavy weapons, experimental armor, classified payloads, and all shipped out under redacted clearance codes that even the highest brass claimed they could not see. And then the satellites began to blink out. Not destroyed, not hacked, just offline for moments at a time, and each time they came back, they reported slight positional drift, like the stars had shifted, or the satellites had been somewhere else, and returned not quite in the same place. Someone was testing warp frames in orbit, someone was folding gravity without permission, and whoever it was had full access to Earth Command's most sacred archives. The colonies whispered of mutiny, of collapse, of surrender. But then came the Ghost Protocol. A signal buried in the old code of the Terran War Accord, broadcast in ultraviolet pulses through asteroid relays and dark channels. Only the oldest command AIs could read it, and only the oldest warriors still alive could feel what it meant. The Ghost Protocol was not a call for battle, it was a call for cleansing. It had only ever been activated once before, during the fall of the Europa Spire, when the last human city on that moon was overrun by something that never left bodies behind, only shadows and dust. Now it had been activated again. And those who knew what it meant stopped speaking and started preparing. The Kethari did not know. They believed Earth was soft. They believed humanity had evolved past brutality, past vengeance, past wrath. They believed the silence was fear, and that belief was the last mistake they would ever make. Because beneath the silence, the fleets were coiling into strike form, armed with weapons tested in secret wars, fought in forgotten systems, led by captains who were trained not to speak until the sky was burning. And when they moved, they would not knock, they would not warn, they would not explain. They would arrive like a myth and disappear like a god. It began without sound, without warning, without countdown or demand, or declaration. Above the Kethari homeworld, the sky simply tore open and bled light. One by one, the human fleets arrived in low orbit, not from hyperspace, not through visible lanes, but from inside folds of bent gravity, a new kind of movement, born from weapons research banned by every known species in the galaxy except for one: humanity. The Kethari watched in silence, watched as ship after ship phased into existence, not sleek, not elegant, but brutal, jagged armor, black hulls built for impact and layered with shielding so thick their own orbital cannons could not lock on. Then came the drop. Thousands of vessels broke from formation and entered atmosphere in perfect synchronized waves. No signals, no radio chatter, just silence and motion and heat. They moved like a living thing, like one mind made of fire and metal. And when they struck, they did not aim for military targets. They aimed for the minds. Research centers, cloning temples, spire libraries, and genetic vaults, all erased within seconds. Each hit surgical, each blast ripping open centuries of data and memory, and leaving only flame. The Kethari scrambled to respond, but their skies were already lost, their orbital defense rings gone offline by viral code that moved faster than light, faster than thought, planted months ago by sleepers buried in the system long before the first child was taken. Human ground forces deployed in silence, wearing armor shaped from synthetic bone and dark matter mesh moving through the rubble with weapons designed not to kill but to unmake. The Kethari had never fought like this. They had studied war, they had catalogued it, they believed it to be predictable. But this was not war. This was punishment. Their communications were flooded not with orders, not with pleas, but with the sound of their own broadcast from weeks before Twisted played backwards, looped under human breathing. We are the Kethari. We bring order. We take what is needed. Now that message echoed through every hall, every corridor, every emergency frequency, and in between the words was static shaped like screaming. One of their high memory vaults imploded under a directed singularity, charge a weapon banned by 10 treaties, and known only to exist in theory. It erased not just data but space itself, leaving behind a hole that pulled light and time into itself. And still the humans kept coming. No surrender. No pause. No mercy. A fleet of Kethari reinforcements entered the system too late, only to find their command network scrambled, their engines locked by mimic AI swarms that fed off heat and thought and broadcast the last words of every fallen child in 1,000 different voices. Then the Earth flagship arrived. It was not the largest or the deadliest, but it was marked with the names of every child taken, carved into its hull in a language the Kethari could not read but would never forget. And from its hangars came the last wave. Not soldiers, but something else. The Kethari had been silent for days, too stunned, too disoriented, to make sense of the destruction that had come down on them from the sky, from the ground, from the depths of their most sacred places. Their weaponry was shattered, their fleets scattered across the stars, their worlds burning. And still they had no idea what was happening. Because they had never understood humans. They had underestimated Earth and all the strength that lay dormant in its veins for so long. On the surface of Kethar Prime, the last of their cities crumbled under bombardment, but it wasn't just weapons that ravaged the planet, it was the humans who moved through it in the shadows, not soldiers, not warriors, but something much worse. The people who came were not the generals or the veterans or the leaders of Earth's forces. These were the parents, the mothers and fathers, the ones who had lost the children who had been taken, the ones who would never rest until the last breath of the Kethari screamed for forgiveness. And they did not ask for mercy. They did not give warnings. They did not explain the fury that had taken root in their hearts. In the heart of the Kethari capital, a quiet figure stood before a shattered building. Where once the largest of the archive vaults had stood, inside it was not just glass and technology that had been lost, it was the souls of 100,000 worlds. Contained in that place, every whisper, every calculation, every life the Kethari had stolen from others to keep their order intact. The figure wore no insignia, no flag, just a face twisted with grief and rage for the child lost years ago, for the children stolen from every colony, and the unspoken vow that had been made to bring them back, no matter the cost. She carried only a small device shaped like a stone, a relic from Earth, its purpose simple but profound. It was not a weapon but a message, and it was meant for the Kethari to hear it from the mouth of the woman who would not rest until they knew what they had done. She activated it, and a pulse of light filled the shattered city of the Kethari. It spread outward, and in its wake followed the faces of the lost children. They were not dead, not gone, not forgotten. They were alive, floating like stars in the transmission, flickering like a memory that refused to die. They spoke in 1,000 voices, overlapping from every age, from every corner of the colonies, voices full of love and fear and laughter and pain. We are the children of Earth, and we are the future that was stolen from you. The message spread across the galaxy, through every channel, every signal, every darkened corner. Where the Kethari once believed they could hide from the truth, it filled the void with faces and words, with the sound of innocence, unloved, twisted into something even they could not ignore. The Kethari began to respond, but it was too late. The fleets of Earth had already finished their work, and now only silence remained. Where the greatest of the Kethari cities had once stood, not even rubble was left behind, just empty ground. Where the weight of their arrogance had once been heavy enough to crush the stars themselves. And as Earth's forces began to withdraw, as their ships melted back into folds of hidden space and darkness, the final message broadcast once again across the galaxy. We are the children of Earth, and we will never forget. This is not diplomacy, this is not negotiation. This is a promise to those who think they can take from us without consequence. We do not forgive. We do not forget. Touch one of us again, and we will erase your bloodline from history. And the stars went silent for a long time. In the aftermath, Earth returned to its cycles. The children were brought home, the families were reunited, and slowly the planets began to rebuild from the ashes of war. But they all knew now that something had changed forever. Because humanity had been tested and had emerged not just as a species of survival, not just as a species of expansion, but as something else, something older, something primal, a force that would not bend, a species that would not be broken. And the Kethari had learned something the hard way, that you never touch what we love.